Discarded by a billionaire, a waitress's amazing stock advice revealed a life-changing secret. Jessica wiped the sweat from her brow, her worn apron soaked with the scents of sizzling bacon and fresh coffee. The diner buzzed around her, a tight-knit family she loved fiercely. They exchanged jokes and stories, laughter echoing through the small space, and she soaked up their joy, hoping to carry it home to her son, Dylan. A brief smile crossed her lips as she thought of him, the little boy who brought sunshine to her long shifts. Then it happened. Mark Harrison, the cold, ruthless billionaire, stepped through the door. His presence sucked the warmth from the diner, a fluorescent shadow against the cozy backdrop. He smirked at her as she approached, ready to take his order. "I'll have the special," he declared, waving her off with an air of superiority. "And don't bother with the details. I can't imagine you know much about investments." His words cut like glass, a deep indignation sparking within her. As Jessica delivered his meal, the laughter around her faded to a dull hum. She served the other customers with renewed focus, feeling the stares of her regulars who believed in her. Later, while wiping down a booth, she heard him ranting with a peer about his dwindling stocks and poor decisions. Inspiration ignited. Why not use her passion for the community, the nuggets of wisdom from nights spent serving the locals, to craft a stock plan unlike any other? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jessica dedicated her evenings to research, her determination burning like the grease on her griddle. But her excitement shattered under the weight of skepticism. The wealthy elite treated her ideas like a farce. What could a waitress know? They muttered, her dreams trampled under their disdain. Yet the murmurs of encouragement from her regulars reminded her of the power of hope. Just then, her estranged father walked back into her life, a stock analyst shamed by his past, desperate for reconciliation. They were both desperate to mend what had been broken. It felt like a tightrope walk, building a bond or reaching for a dream that teetered on the brink of collapse. One fateful morning, a sudden market crash sent her plans spiraling. Trepidation gripped her heart. Everything she built, all for Dylan's future, hung by a thread. The fear of failure tightened around her chest like a vice. Would she risk it all for a faint whisper of success, or draw back to protect her fragile family? As she prepared for a daunting meeting with a ruthless group of investors, a flare of optimism ignited inside her. The community that raised her, the child she adored, and the chance for healing with her father pushed her forward. The stakes couldn't be higher. Would the ties of family and the resilience born from hardship guide her to redemption, or would the barriers of wealth shape her fate? Jessica steadied herself for the fight, a warrior forged by love and determination. Jessica stepped into the small, crowded conference room, her heart racing like a drum. The polished table gleamed under the harsh fluorescent lights, and the wall of glass offered a view of the restless city below. She could see the world moving, but in that moment she felt frozen, the weight of her dreams pressing down on her shoulders. Across the table, the investors were seated, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and disdain. The tallest one, a man with slick back hair and a permanent sneer, leaned forward, a hint of amusement in his eyes. "So, you're a waitress with a stock tip? How quaint. What makes you think we'd listen to you?" His voice dripped with condescension, and Jessica felt heat rise in her cheeks. Taking a deep breath, she recalled the laughter of her regulars, the support of her father, and the face of her son, Dylan, wide-eyed with curiosity about the world. "I may not have fancy degrees or big titles, but I know the people in this city. I know their passion, their desires, and what drives them to spend their hard-earned money." Her voice steadied as she spoke, each word more confident than the last. The investors exchanged glances, skepticism flickering across their faces. But Jessica continued, describing her ideas, how the local businesses understood their customers better than anyone, how community engagement could lead to a flourishing market. Her thoughts flowed freely, like the coffee she brewed at the diner, rich and invigorating. Suddenly, a voice sliced through her enthusiasm. "You're talking about feelings, not facts. This is the stock market, not your neighborhood cafe." It was the man with the sneer again, his disdain like a knife. In that moment, doubt crept into her heart, and she felt the walls of the room closing in. "I'm talking about a connection," she insisted, her voice rising slightly. "It's about more than numbers. It's about understanding your customers, knowing what they value. In a world of overpriced analytics, maybe it's time to rethink who we trust to guide us." The investors sat in silence, the air thick with tension. It was then Jessica decided to make a bold move. She reached into her bag and pulled out a framed photograph of her and Dylan, taken on a sunny day at the park. She placed it on the table, her fingers trembling. "This is my son, and everything I do is for him. If we make decisions based only on cold statistics, we lose sight of the heart of our community. That's where true investments lie." As the image drew their attention, she sensed a crack in their armor. Murmurs erupted, whispers exchanged among them, their hardened gazes softening just a fraction. She pushed forward, feeling emboldened. "I may not be one of you, but I know determination, I know resilience. I can show you what it means to invest in something that matters beyond dollars and cents." The tension finally broke as the investors began to engage with her proposal, curiosity seeping through their skepticism. Just as she started to feel a flicker of hope, the tall man spoke again. "You're saying it's not just about making money? That's a risky game. Why should we believe you?" Jessica's heart raced, but she had to be honest. "Because I have nothing to lose and everything to gain. If that doesn't drive innovation, I don't know what does." Just then, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She glanced down and saw Dylan's name flashing on the screen. Her heart swelled, grounding her within this storm of uncertainty. As she gathered her thoughts for a final push, she could feel the change in the room. They were listening, really listening. Could this be the moment that led to everything she wanted? The door to opportunity stood ajar, but would they step through it with her? The thought buzzed in her mind like a persistent fly, begging for resolution. The atmosphere shifted, a fragile tension woven into the air. Jessica looked up to meet the eyes of the tall investor. They were no longer mocking. There was a glint of intrigue lurking in their depths. She felt that familiar flicker of hope, but also a swell of fear. What if this moment slipped away from her grasp? The man cleared his throat, surprising her. "Okay, let us play along. What's this community engagement you keep talking about? We're investors, not social workers." A hint of challenge laced his words, making her pulse quicken. For a second, her mind raced. She thought of the local markets, how once a month they drew crowds eager for homemade goods, and the way small businesses thrived when neighbors came together. "It's about relationships," she explained, gesturing animatedly. "Local businesses are the pulse of their communities. When they thrive, the whole area thrives. People want to support what's familiar, what they know and trust. It's personal." There was a silence now, a curious silence. She could feel their hesitations slipping away like snow under the spring sun. The short woman with glasses, who had been scribbling notes furiously, looked up. "So, you're suggesting we focus on community-driven investments? You think that's profitable?" Her voice held a hint of skepticism, but also a spark of intrigue. "Yes. People invest in what they care about," Jessica replied, passion igniting her words. "Look at the growth of socially responsible companies. People want to buy from brands they believe in. They want to contribute to something meaningful. Just last week, I heard of a cafe that opened with a pay-what-you-can model. It's thriving, just from the community supporting it. That model could be adapted to countless sectors." The murmurs intensified. She spotted a few nodding slightly, the lines on their faces softening as they processed her words. But still, the tall investor raised an eyebrow, not yet convinced. "Your ideals are inspiring, but we deal in numbers. Can you prove this works?" An icy knot tightened in her stomach. Could she pull together a convincing argument, some concrete evidence? Then an idea struck. I can. Her voice rang with newfound confidence. I'll collect testimonies, show you how consumer behavior shifts with local investments. I can even gather metrics from businesses that showcase substantial community support. The investor crossed his arms, still guarded, but a hint of action glimmered in his eyes. All right, if you can bring back solid data, we might have a conversation. But until then, he leaned back, a wave of dismissal threatening to crash over her again. In that moment, Jessica felt the weight of all her yearnings, her dreams, her fears, Dylan's future clashing inside her, fueling her drive. I will prove it. Just give me time. I can show you the heart of our community where values translate to profit. This isn't just about money, it's about love for what we build together. Another pause ensued, and she saw doubt fight with interest as they assessed her fervor. Then, something astonishing happened. The woman with glasses set her pen down. Further analysis could bring insights we haven't considered. I'm willing to take a deeper look, she announced, her voice rising softly with determination. The tall investor's expression remained skeptical, but there was a crack forming in his armor. Fine, but this better not be a fantasy. Jessica's breath caught in her throat as the notion of possibility flickered in the air. They were still uncertain, but there was a chance. As the meeting concluded, Jessica practically floated out of the room, enveloped by her excitement. She could almost hear Dylan's laughter echoing in her ears, urging her forward. Yet, as she stepped outside, the chilly wind hit her, a stark reminder of her reality. What if she couldn't prove it? What if her dreams crumbled under the weight of their skepticism? Her phone buzzed again, a soft light announcing a message from Dylan. Are you coming home now? Jessica smiled, her heart full. She would find a way to turn this possibility into reality, for him and for the community that shaped her every day. But what if proving her theory meant diving into deeper waters than she ever intended, or uncovering secrets that would challenge everything she believed? Jessica stepped out into the brisk evening air, her heart racing with a mix of exhilaration and dread. The towering buildings around her seemed to lean in, almost listening in to her thoughts. She tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear and took a deep breath, reminding herself of the stakes. This wasn't just about numbers. It was about people, her community, her home, and most importantly, Dylan's future. She pulled out her phone, thoughts swirling as she typed a quick reply to Dylan. Almost home. Exciting day. But underneath that excitement, anxiety flickered. She needed to act fast, gathering the proof that would win over the investors. As she walked, she could already envision the plan forming in her mind: interviews, surveys, data to back up every claim she made in that boardroom. Every shopkeeper she had met over the years flashed through her mind. Their stories mattered. If there was one thing she knew, it was that the heart of the community beat strongest within those small, family-run businesses. She imagined taking Dylan along with her, watching him charm the barista at the local coffee shop, their laughter mingling with the aroma of fresh brews. The warmth of that memory steadied her. Jessica reached into her pocket, feeling the crinkled receipts she had saved from various shops. She needed to turn those small interactions into tangible evidence. But where to start? Suddenly, an idea struck her like a bolt of lightning. The upcoming local markets. They were a goldmine of stories, real testimonials of how community-supported businesses thrived. Her thoughts raced as she pulled out her phone again, rapidly tapping a message to the local market organizer. I'd love to collect stories and metrics from the vendors at the market. Can we set something up? With a deep breath, she hit send and felt a wave of determination wash over her. It was a step, a crucial one. As she walked, a familiar sight caught her eye. The old bookstore that had served as the town's meeting place for decades loomed ahead. The bittersweet nostalgia tugged at her books piled high, the gentle hum of conversations, the laughter that spilled into the streets. This was a part of her, and exchanging whiffs of roast coffee with paperbacks was pure comfort. She hesitated, half wanting to go inside. She wanted to share her ideas, to inspire, and perhaps gather some wisdom from the owner. Just then, a figure stepped out of the store, and Jessica's heart dropped. It was Derek, the tall investor. His sharp suit contrasted against the rustic warmth of the bookstore facade. Their eyes met, and for a moment, an unspoken connection sparked. "Jessica," he said, his tone surprisingly softer than she expected. "I didn't peg you as a reader." She took a step forward, her pulse racing. "It's one of my favorite places," she admitted, surprising herself with the earnestness in her voice that he raised an eyebrow, as if this glimpse into her world intrigued him. "You know, I've been reconsidering what you said in that meeting. Community engagement can be more than just a talking point. Maybe there's something there. Hopes sprang up like wildflowers after a storm. I think it is, Derek. It's about trust and connection." He paused, and she could see wheels turning behind his eyes. Just as quickly, the facade returned, but it was enough to ignite Jessica's determination further. As they parted ways, her mind raced. Could this unplanned encounter lead to a deeper engagement? What if he turned out to be an ally instead of a cynic? Smiling to herself, she headed home, now with both the weight and the promise of potential alliances pushing her forward. Yet thoughts raced through her mind. Would proving her theory bring her community together or rip open hidden wounds left long unattended? She arrived home to Dylan's eager grin, the smell of something hearty cooking on the stove. But the weight of her mission lingered. How much would she have to sacrifice to prove her point and secure their future? With her heart in turmoil, she whispered to herself, "This is just the beginning." And a shiver of anticipation danced down her spine. Because the deeper she went, the more she realized, truth has a funny way of revealing itself, especially when you go looking for it. Jessica settled at the small kitchen table, her fingertips brushing against the worn wood surface. Dylan's laughter filtered through from the living room where he played with his toys, a bright melody that brought warmth to the chilly evening. She offered him a smile, but her mind drifted back to Derek. It wasn't just their brief encounter that stirred something inside her. It was the way he seemed genuinely curious about what she had to say. There was potential there, glimmering like gold in the unlikeliest of places. But what did that mean for her? Could she really get through to someone like him? Taking a deep breath, she pinned her hopes on the story-gathering initiative at the local market. It was an opportunity. Maybe this could bridge a gap, number by number her community's needs translated into language he understood. That night, she didn't sleep much. Her mind raced with ideas and anxious thoughts. By morning, she had a batch of emails to vendors and a list of questions that could yield the powerful stories she wanted. She activated her research process, sliding into the role of an advocate with a purpose. As the days passed, she felt that same urgency, a persistent hum in her chest reminding her of everything she had to accomplish. After school, she picked up Dylan and together they visited the market. The bustling crowd was alive with chatter, laughter, and the clinking of coins against glass jars. "Look, Mama!" Dylan shouted, pointing to a stall filled with homemade jams. "Can we try some?" Jessica nodded, her heart lifting. "Of course. But let us also chat with the seller. We need stories, remember?" They approached the vendor, a kind-faced woman with flour-dusted hands. As they sampled sweet raspberry jam, Jessica delved into questions about the woman's business journey. Dylan stood beside her, his eyes wide with wonder as she listened intently, jotting down notes. "Every jar is made with love and local fruit," the woman shared, a smile spreading across her face. "I started this to provide for my kids. It's hard, but I wouldn't trade it for anything." Jessica's heart swelled. She could feel the authenticity in the woman's every word, the drive that propelled her. This was what she needed, real stories that could resonate with Derek and the other investors. As they moved from stall to stall, her confidence grew. She gathered anecdotes from bakers, artisans, and farmers, each story weaving a tapestry of hope and resilience. Dylan helped, his little hands handing out flyers she had made about their cause. His innocent enthusiasm was infectious and drew people in. But just as they began to feel a rhythm, her phone buzzed with an incoming email. It was from Derek. "Jessica," it read. "I'd like to revisit our conversation. I have some ideas I think could help bring your plans to fruition. Can we meet tomorrow?" Her heart fluttered. Was this the moment she had been waiting for? She turned to Dylan, whose latest curiosity was a colorful kite fluttering in the market's gentle breeze. Do you think he believes in us? She asked her son, kneeling beside him. Dylan looked thoughtful. If he sees how much fun we're having, can we invite him to the next market? Jessica laughed, the pressure easing just a fraction. That's a great idea. Let us show him what we're all about. As they made their way home, Jessica couldn't shake the feeling that tomorrow could change everything. Yet, as the night fell, doubt began to creep back in. She wondered if Derek would truly grasp the heart of her mission, or see it only as a business venture. As she tucked Dylan into bed, she kissed his forehead, whispering, "No matter what happens, we're making a difference." But in the quiet darkness, she couldn't help but wonder if she opened herself up tomorrow, was she ready for whatever truth lay ahead? Jessica woke up the next morning with the sun's first rays spilling into the room. The golden light felt warm against her cheeks, but her stomach twisted in knots. Today was the day. The day she would meet Derek again. She slid out of bed, careful not to wake Dylan, who was still in deep slumber, his little face peaceful and unaware of the storm brewing in his mother's heart. After a quick shower, she stood before her closet, scanning her modest wardrobe. What one outfit could convey passion and professionalism? She landed on a simple yet elegant blue dress. It was a color that made her feel confident, a little bit like the ocean, a vast expanse of hope. Once dressed, she busied herself in the kitchen, preparing a quick breakfast for Dylan. Pancakes were a favorite, fluffy and warm, just the way he liked them. She hummed softly to herself, trying to drown out the anxious thoughts that crept in with each flip of the pancake. "Good morning, Mama!" Dylan's bright voice broke through her haze as he bounded into the kitchen, still rubbing sleep from his eyes. "Good morning, sleepyhead," she replied, her heart lightening at the sight of his wide grin. "I have a surprise for you today." "What is it?" he asked, his eyes sparkling with curiosity. Jessica leaned closer, lowering her voice to a playful whisper. "We might get to invite someone special to our market today. Someone who can help us." Dylan's eyes widened. "Is it the man from yesterday? Can he try our jam?" She chuckled, ruffling his hair. "I sure hope so." After breakfast, they made their way out the door, the sweet scent of syrup lingering in the air. As Jessica parked the car near the cafe where she and Derek had agreed to meet, a rush of apprehension washed over her. She took a deep breath and reminded herself of all the stories she gathered, the weight of the community behind her. The promise of change pulsed through her veins. Dylan squeezed her hand, his innocent trust shining through. "You got this, Mama. Just be like the lady with the jam. You can do it." Jessica smiled, feeling bolstered by her son's belief in her. They entered the cafe, the rich aroma of coffee swirling around them. Jessica scanned the room. There he was, Derek. He sat at a table in the corner, his laptop open and papers scattered before him. His brow was furrowed in concentration, but when he noticed her, his face broke into an easy smile. "Jessica, great to see you," he said, rising to greet her with a warm handshake. "Thank you for inviting me," she said, her voice steady despite the fluttering in her stomach. She introduced Dylan, who grinned and waved, clearly enamored by the bustling cafe scene. "Hi there, buddy," Derek said, crouching slightly to Dylan's level. His sudden kindness was disarming. They settled into conversation, and Jessica shared the stories she had gathered from the market, weaving the tales together like strands of a tapestry. Derek listened intently, occasionally taking notes and asking insightful questions. Slowly, the tension began to dissipate, and what had started as daunting felt more like a collaboration. But then, Derek shifted in his seat, and for a moment his expression turned serious. "Jessica, I see your passion. But what happens if your project doesn't get off the ground? What's your backup plan?" Her heart sank. The question felt like a cold splash of reality. She started, words momentarily escaping her. But before she could respond, Dylan piped up, "Mama is brave. She never gives up." Derek's lips curled into a gentle smile. "That's a great quality to have," he admitted, but uncertainty lingered in his eyes. Jessica couldn't ignore the flickers of doubt in his expression. She was beginning to understand that this meeting wasn't just about securing funding. It was about convincing him of the heart behind her vision. As they continued to talk, Jessica felt the weight of her dreams pressing against her chest. Could she really make him see? Just then, her phone buzzed again, and a quick glance revealed another email, this time from one of the vendors at the market. The subject line: "Read urgent, we need to talk." Her heart raced. What was it they needed to discuss? Derek raised an eyebrow, intrigued by her sudden change in expression. "Everything okay?" "I'm not sure," she admitted, feeling the tide of anxiety rise again. And in that moment of uncertainty, she realized her journey was just beginning. With each question she faced, each doubt she had to confront, she was moving closer to a truth she didn't yet grasp. Was it truly too late for hope, or was today the day all the pieces would begin to fall into place? Jessica's heart thumped wildly in her chest as she stared at the screen of her phone. What had the vendor meant by urgent? She quickly typed a reply, telling them she would call later, but her mind was racing. The words danced around like fireflies, illuminating the path she needed to take. "Are you sure you're all right?" Derek asked, his gaze sharpening with concern. She forced a smile, but it felt thin and fragile. "Just a little unexpected news." "I'll handle it," she assured him, though she felt the weight of the world on her shoulders. Dylan, ever observant, noticed the change in her demeanor. "Mama?" he said softly, his small hand reaching for hers. "Are you okay?" Jessica squeezed his hand, drawing strength from his innocence. "I'm good, buddy," she said, meeting his bright eyes. "You know Mama always finds a way." The sincerity in her voice seemed to ease the tension at the table. Derek nodded, but his expression remained cautious. "Your passion really shines through, Jessica. But the reality is, not every project succeeds." His words were like needles, pricking her confidence. "I understand. But I believe in what we're doing," she started, feeling the urge to defend her vision. "The market isn't just about selling jam, it's about stories, community, tradition. It's about us, the people who work so hard to make it happen." Derek leaned back, his brow furrowed as he considered her words. "I get that. But I want to know, how will you get others to believe in that vision too?" Before Jessica could answer, her phone buzzed again. An incoming call, this one from the vendor. She glanced at Derek, whose eyebrows raised expectantly. "I need to take this," she said, and with a quick nod she stepped outside the cafe, the sound of Dylan's laughter fading as the door closed behind her. "Hello?" she said, trying to keep the tremor from her voice. "Jessica, thank goodness I caught you," said Mary, one of the market vendors. "We've hit a snag. The health inspector is coming, and there are some issues they found with the kitchen setup." Her stomach dropped. They had worked hard to create a space that was safe and inviting. "What issues?" "Just some permits we didn't have squared away," Mary continued, her voice shaky. "We need to rectify this before they get here. If we don't, we might have to shut down operations." Jessica felt a cold sweat break out along her spine. "What can I do?" "We need someone to speak to the inspector. They want to meet you and the team. Can you make it?" The urgency in Mary's tone ignited something inside Jessica. "Yes. I'll be there right away." As she hung up and returned to the cafe, her resolve solidified. She had been given the chance to not just talk about her dreams but to fight for them. Dylan jumped up as she entered. "Did you talk to the special person?" "Kind of," she replied, her heart stilled with a new determination. "But I have to go do something important now." Derek's curiosity piqued. He asked, "Something to do with the project, right?" She nodded, her thoughts racing. "I wouldn't let this slip away. We're going to make this work." Before she could lose her courage, she glanced at Derek. "Join me?" He hesitated. "Jessica, what if Derek? I need your help, even more now." "You might be the person who can turn this around," she said, her voice steady, and her heart echoing with urgency. Derek exhaled slowly. "Okay, let us do it." As they stepped out into the sunshine, The air crackling with possibilities, Jessica allowed hope to swell within her. With Dylan at her side and Derek's support, she felt stronger than ever. But as they made their way to the market, another buzz came from her phone, a message from an unknown number. Her heart raced as she opened it. The words sent a chill through her. Jessica, we need to talk about your past. It's about time you knew the truth. Who were they? What truth could possibly change everything? She glanced at Derek and Dylan, their faces filled with anticipation. Would the journey they were on lead to redemption or disaster? Today was only the beginning, and Jessica could feel the storm brewing just beneath the surface. What kind of truth awaited her? The sun beat down mercilessly as they walked toward the market, the cheerful atmosphere contrasting sharply with the whirlwind of emotions inside Jessica. She clutched her phone tightly, the message still lingering in her mind like a dark cloud. "Mom, why do you look like a superhero ready for battle?" Dylan asked, his innocent voice breaking through her thoughts. It tugged at her heart, reminding her that she had to be strong not just for her dreams but for him as well. "I guess I just have a lot on my mind," she said with a forced laugh. Derek gave her a side glance, his concern evident. He wanted to help, but even she wasn't sure how. As they approached the market, Jessica felt a mixture of excitement and fear. The scent of fresh fruits and vegetables wafted in the air, blending with the sounds of casual chatter and laughter. But the flood of people only heightened her anxiety. What if she failed? What if it overwhelmed her? "Focus, Jess," she whispered to herself. "You can do this." Just as they reached the entrance, she spotted Mary. The stress on the vendor's face was palpable. Mary rushed over, her eyes wide. "Thank goodness you're here." Jessica nodded, a knot tightening in her stomach. "I'm ready." "What do we need to do?" "Stick to the points we prepared. Be honest and straightforward," Mary said, clasping her hands in front of her. "The inspector is a tough one, likes cleanliness, structure, and paperwork. Just keep calm." Derek stepped closer, giving Jessica a gentle nudge of reassurance. "You've got this," he said, his voice low but confident. As they made their way to the designated meeting space, Jessica felt her heart racing. Each step seemed to add weight to her feet. She glanced at Derek, who was now walking slightly ahead. He seemed to exhibit so much confidence, illuminating the way forward. "Hey, you don't have to stand behind me. You should be beside me," Jessica said softly, and he matched her pace, creating a united front. They arrived at a small conference room off to the side, the walls a stark white, sterile in contrast to the vibrant chaos just outside it. The health inspector was already seated at the table, tapping away on a tablet. He didn't look up as they shuffled in, a daunting figure clad in a blue shirt and dark glasses. "Good afternoon," he said without even glancing their way. "I assume you're Jessica?" "Yes, that's me," Jessica said, her voice surprisingly steady. She exchanged a glance with Derek and Dylan. Dylan looked curious, and Jessica was grateful for his innocence. It gave her strength. "Why don't you start by explaining the problems you've encountered?" "The sooner we clear this up, the better," the inspector said flatly. Jessica took a deep breath, tempers rising in her chest. "We have some permits that need to be fixed, but I assure you, we've been working hard to create a safe and inviting environment." The inspector finally looked up, his expression neutral. "I'll need more than words, Jessica. I'll need documentation on food safety standards, kitchen layouts, and employee training. Show me your records." Dylan shifted uneasily beside her, sensing his mother's rising tension. "Mama's really good at this," he chimed in, trying to lighten the mood, and Jessica felt a flutter of gratitude for her son. "Thank you, buddy," she said, forcing a small smile. But the inspector remained unfazed. "I suggest you start gathering what I've asked for, then. Time is of the essence." As they scrambled to find the needed documentation, a momentary thought flitted through Jessica's mind. What if she dropped the ball? What if this was the end of everything? Just as she prepared to make a case for her business, her phone buzzed again. This time, it was the unknown number. "This isn't just about you. It's about your family's past." Jessica's heart sank. The past? It felt like a chain pulling her back just as she was trying to break free. Her mind buzzed with possibilities, each more daunting than the last. Derek glanced at her, concern painted across his face. Everything okay? This new message could change everything: her business, her family, her future. She had to focus on the moment, to seize what she had fought so hard to create. Yeah, all good, she lied, yet the words felt fragile on her lips as her heart raced, anticipating the truth that was about to surface. Would this confrontation with the inspector unravel her dreams? Would the truth finally catch up with her? The fragile balance of her life, that which she was building, hung in the air as thick as the summer heat. And somewhere behind this challenging moment, a deeper revelation awaited. What was hidden, and would it tear her apart or make her whole? What kind of truth lurked in the shadows, ready to strike? Jessica's hands trembled as she fumbled through the stack of papers in front of her. The bright fluorescent lights above felt unforgiving, their starkness mirroring the suffocating pressure rising in her chest. She could feel the health inspector's eyes boring into her, assessing not just her evidence but her very worth. Let's start with food safety standards, he said, tapping the tablet before him. Do you have all the necessary certifications? Right here, Jessica said, her voice barely above a whisper as she handed over the document. She watched as he scrutinized it, his expression unchanging. Dylan played quietly by her side, his tiny fingers fiddling with a paperweight. Despite trying to hide it, Jessica saw the confusion in his eyes. Didn't he understand why this moment felt so consequential, why the health inspector's opinion seemed to carry such weight? She wanted to shield him from it all, but who could shield her from the reality that loomed dangerously close? Miss Jessica, was it? The inspector said abruptly, breaking the silence. Your food safety records are critical. A single oversight could reflect poorly on your commitment to this establishment. I assure you, every measure has been taken, Jessica replied, her voice gaining strength. We are committed to exceeding standards. Derek, ever the supportive partner, stepped in. We've invested in training and systems to ensure every aspect of our service is safe. We truly believe in what we're building here. The inspector leaned back, looking skeptical. Jessica could feel her heart racing, teetering on the brink of a panic attack. But something deeper nagged at her, a feeling that transcended the moment. The message from the unknown number replayed in her mind, intertwining with her growing anxiety. What do you mean by my family's past? She thought, trying to bury the thought. But the words returned with fury, scalding her resolve. Could this encounter, this struggle, really just be about the permits? Or was it about much more? Miss Jessica? The health inspector's voice snapped her back to reality. The next step requires transparency. If you have any past issues, now is the time to disclose them. Jessica's face paled. Her throat tightened as she wrestled with a turmoil of doubt and fear. The past was complicated, filled with choices she regretted, and mistakes she wished she could erase. She'd worked too hard to build a new life for Dylan and Derek. But if the truth surfaced now, if it tainted everything she'd created, what would remain? Her breath caught, words swirling like a storm inside. There are things my family faced before, things I'm trying to move past. The inspector raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Specifics? She hesitated, the brink of vulnerability cresting like a wave. This was not where she wanted to be, not now. I can assure you, she started but faltered. The weight of honesty seemed insurmountable. A piercing silence filled the room, and Jessica felt the eyes of both her son and Derek on her. They were counting on her to forge ahead, to find a way through the darkness. She had always been their anchor. But could she bring herself to share this part of her life? Jessica, the truth is essential, the inspector pressed, his tone softening slightly, yet serious. Dylan quietly chimed in again. Whatever it is, Mom, you can tell him. Just like you tell me things, I trust you. His sweet, innocent conviction struck her, reopening a door she had locked tight. But should she open it? Would it shatter everything she was trying to protect? As her world narrowed to a single moment, Jessica felt a surge of strength. Perhaps confronting her past would not destroy her future, but rather free her. I'll tell you everything, she said, her voice stronger than she felt, laying her heart bare. But first, let me gather the rest of my documents. This is going to take some time. The moment stretched as she stood between the inspector and her family, the weight of her decision settling heavily on her shoulders. What truths was she prepared to unveil? The clock ticked in the background, but her heart raced faster, each second amplifying the stakes of her revelation. Would her honesty bring them closer or tear everything apart? And would the shadows of her family history finally reveal their darker secrets? Jessica took a deep breath before stepping into the meeting room again, her heart pounding like a drum. In a way, sharing her family's secrets felt like standing on a precipice, teetering between fear and the promise of healing. She looked at the health inspector, who waited for her to continue, his expression barely masking his curiosity. "Let us clear the air," she said, gathering the courage she found in the love surrounding her. "My father made choices years ago that led our family through some tough times. Choices that left scars, and I've spent my life trying to rebuild." Her voice trembled but held firm. "I had to navigate the consequences, redefine my path, and protect my son. I wouldn't let that past dictate who I am now." Dylan's little hand shot up. "I believe in you, Mama." His innocent trust wrapped tightly around her heart, anchoring her. She glanced at Derek, who nodded with an encouraging smile. The warmth flooded her, reminding her that she was not alone. As the inspector listened, she recounted the struggles of her family, the shadows that lurked from her childhood, but also how she turned pain into purpose, using that drive to create stability and hope for Dylan. "Every jar of jam sold at the market represents love and community," she said, her passion bubbling to life. "It symbolizes everything we fight for." The inspector studied her with newfound respect, the rigidity in his posture slowly softening. "What you're telling me matters," he replied. There was something real in his eyes now, understanding. "But understand, I still need to see the documents." Her stomach twisted. "I'll get them," she promised, determination swirling within her like a raging storm. She left the room, diving into the nearby office space filled with papers and old filing cabinets. She recalled the late nights spent sorting through the chaos, drafting plans to transform her vision into reality. Now, she needed to put that focus back into motion. "Dylan, can you be my helper and look through these files?" she asked, trying to mask the anxiety creeping up her spine. "Okay," Dylan chirped, excitement igniting in his bright brown eyes. As they rummaged through old documents, Jessica felt hope swell. Amid old bills and receipts, she found the required permits, a badge of their hard-earned progress. Suddenly, her phone buzzed, another message from the unknown number. "Your past doesn't just affect you. It involves others too." It sent a chill racing down her spine. Who knew her story? Was there something more lurking? She shoved her phone back into her pocket, deciding to focus on the task at hand. With a stack of papers in hand, Jessica returned to the meeting room. The health inspector was reviewing her submission, and Derek gave her an affirming nod. "I gathered everything you need," Jessica announced, setting the documents on the table. "All the certifications, training records, and kitchen layouts are right here." The inspector nodded, flicking through the materials with a sharp gaze. "These are thorough. I appreciate your transparency. What you shared earlier helps, too. It shows you have the ability to face challenges head-on." Jessica felt a rush of relief wash over her. The tension in the room began to dissipate like the fog lifting. "All I want is for our community to thrive. This isn't just a business, it's a collective dream." The inspector looked at her thoughtfully before putting down the documents. "I'll need to run inspections periodically to ensure everything remains up to standard, but I believe you'll rise to the occasion. It's not just about safety, it's about building trust." A giddy joy swelled inside her chest, and Dylan whispered, "Does that mean we can keep the market open?" "Yes, buddy!" Jessica exclaimed, throwing her arms around him. "We did it!" Derek joined in the celebration, and for a moment, everything felt perfect, like they had transcended the challenges, coming together with newfound strength. But just as reality began to settle in, the door swung open, and there stood Derek, his jaw clenched, eyes burning with concern. "Jessica, we need to talk." he said, urgency in his voice. Derek, what's wrong? She asked, concern creeping into her tone. The message you got there are things about your past you need to know. We can't ignore this. A lump formed in her throat, anxiety gnawing at her gut. Everything around her felt distorted, straddling two worlds, the hopes she was building and the secrets that threatened to unravel it all. What do you mean? She murmured, the warmth of victory now mixed with a chilling fear. Someone is reaching out, someone who knows the truth about your family. It could change everything once you dig into it. Derek's voice was serious, a warning laced within. We can help you face this. Whatever it is, you don't have to do it alone. Jessica's gaze narrowed, uncertainty flooding back. I thought I was ready to move on. Maybe it's time to face the shadows, once and for all. His eyes were determined, a quiet strength urging her onward. Together they stepped out of the room and into the bustling market, the vibrant atmosphere surrounding them, but within, Jessica felt the tremors of a storm brewing. Secrets, family, community, they intertwined, each thread pulling her in a different direction. As she turned to Derek and Dylan, she made a silent vow. She wanted to confront her past, not for herself but for Dylan, for their future, for the community she cherished. It all felt overwhelming, yet enticingly necessary. The road ahead promised to be jagged and winding, full of difficult truths and profound revelations. But in that moment she knew one thing: she'd face it head-on, beyond fears and shadows, an act of love and courage that would transcend barriers. The adventure was far from over. And it was time to embrace it all. Jessica pulled her phone from her pocket, ready to respond to that mysterious message. A storm of change was on the horizon, and she was ready to weather it strong, unified, and hopeful. This was their moment to rise, and nothing would stand in their way. So, what do you think will happen next? If you want to keep following this amazing journey, you need to subscribe now and hit that bell for all notifications, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. If you're inspired, leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. I want to hear from you. Comment below your thoughts and feelings about today's twists and turns. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Your support means the world.